Tell me about these numbers, and if there's like a quick diagnosis. The so out of all of the reps that we have to date, total, which is eight, right? Inspections, 77 inspections. Uh, Damage of those 77 was 20. Like there was 20 roofs with damage, and contracts signed nine.
Okay.
And so we have two reps that haven't signed any at all. Um, and then um, the other one has signed four, the others like one or two.
Okay. Contracts and the others were two. And that's in how much time?
So three of these, our first training was the July 10th we started.
Okay. So
So
like
like a month.
almost a month. Okay, 1 month. Dude, that's still not, those are not bad numbers. Um, Here's what I will say. So, so it looks like the biggest swing is damage. So out of those
Mhm.
77 roofs, and you're gonna have to remind me what market you're in and how recent your storms have been.
Um, we're Lubbock, Texas, so West Texas,
Oh,
and
you always have damage.
yeah, that's what's hard is like when we look at hail trace, it's like the whole state, the whole
Right.
our whole region up. You know what I mean? What we're running into is sometimes we're getting on and they're not able to, there's some damage, not a lot, minimal, right? It's very spotty. Yeah, I don't know.
So the first thing I would say, they're probably being a little too skimpy on what they're calling damage. Like you and I would
Yeah,
never go do 77 inspections and only sign and only call 20 damage, especially in Lubbock, Texas.
I
So
do.
so one avenue you could, so the first thing would be like, okay, we need to give these people more confidence in identifying damage. This would be a situation where what I would probably do, honestly, is do some ride along training. Like go with
Yeah,
some of those leads to some of those houses that they said they inspected and get on them. Like send
yeah,
somebody out with them, be like, hey, let's do a reinspection because according to this hail map, this would be really unusual if there wasn't damage. And then you can show them in person. Like those are good examples of doing ride along training because we're doing technical training, right? You're not having to go do like and you could go and do the sales process, obviously, but you could call those homeowners up, be like, hey, I just want to follow up with you. You know, one of our brand new guys, Ben, came out and did kind of a practice round of his inspection process at your house. And he mentioned that he didn't really see any damage, but he also just say, he's not, he expressed that he's not confident really identifying damage fully yet. So we're just going to come out and do a reinspection on your house if that's okay. I just want to be a second pair of eyes just to show him what we're looking for. And if we missed anything, I'll let you know. But if not, like it would just help Ben out. So that's a great way to like start going and spot checking because there's no way 70 to only have 20 damage houses out of 70. That's your first thing. Because here's the hot news. Out of 20 damaged houses, they got nine contracts. That's almost a 50% close on these brand new reps. That's really good.
yeah.
So if we had turned that number into, let's say out of 77 inspections, they had 62 that had damage or 60 that had damage even, they would have signed 30 contracts out of there.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, that's what, and I don't know. This might be me just making it up in my head. Like, I think some of them are would rather say no damage than do the whole thing because we've
maybe.
been also seeing that. So we've been doing a lot of role playing and trying to get them more confident in the presentation because um, some of them will be like, oh well, I did the presentation and then I'm going to follow up on it. I'm going to follow up on them, and I'm like, no, close right then.
Yeah,
Do
no
it right.
follow-ups. Where are they
Right.
getting that idea?
I don't know. I think that, and I don't know that again if that's what I'm saying in my head, like
Yeah.
if I'm just making that up. But some of them, like we have had to correct them and let them know, like, no, like when you make an inspection, they need to be there, right? Because they're like, oh, well, they weren't there and I couldn't get a hold of them. Well, yeah, I know that. I could have told you,
Well, they
like
don't get
we
paid
told,
for those. Like they don't get paid
right.
to do that. They get paid to do an inspection and a presentation, right, with both homeowners present. So, like, I want to actually make sure that I have that in here. Give me 1 second. I'm going to open up the training really quick because I want to
I think,
see. I want to make sure. Actually, it might be Saturday morning. Saturday launch. I want to make sure we're being really explicit about when we go over their the inspection or the qualified inspection verification forms, because that's how they get paid, right? Yeah.
and then yeah, out too that some of them didn't do the whole presentation because we asked them, oh, well, what's up with this one that you turned in? They're deductible. And I'm like, well, did you talk about that during your presentation? No, no, no. We just kind of like, okay.
Right. So
That I was getting frustrated with because I'm like, I mean, I don't know how
yeah,
else to tell you that what we're like laying it out there for you. But some of it I recognize is just going to be a learning curve for them where they're going to like recognize that when they actually do it that way, that they can have success or not.
right. It's
Just
just like hammering home again the whole like follow the program. This is what you do step by step. And like you can even take an angle of like, guys, remember, this is practice, okay? There's no reason for you guys to be nervous. If somebody has damage, give them a full presentation, exactly like you would with a real person. This is your practice, right? And by the way, when they do that, they're naturally going to get people to sign. So it's like, we need them to understand that the practice inspections is not just the inspection. It's the inspection, that's half of it. The other critically important and necessary half is the presentation, right? So helping them understand, like, guys, make sure that you're doing these things. Like those are, but yeah, we don't want people to get comfortable with just doing the inspection itself and getting paid $50. Like
correct.
that's not, and we want to make an emphasis on that too. We're like, guys, that's not where you make your money. Okay. Like you don't, you're not going to get rich off of inspection pay. Okay. Like you get rich off of commissions, but you're not going to get commissions if you're not going fully through your sales presentation with homeowners. Like you don't make the jump from $50 to $2,000 by skipping
Mhm.
the sales presentation. Like, where do you think that's going to come from? So yeah, maybe just having like a sit down, like a one-on-one with everybody, or a sales meeting, like to re-up it. And maybe just as you're noticing these things, like the more training classes that you do, you can you're naturally just gonna be like, I need to put more emphasis on this part, right? Like
Right.
maybe you didn't emphasize this as much, or maybe there's a better way that I could emphasize it, or make sure that I go over this part a second time or whatever, right?
Yes. That's what the second round I emphasize it more and they are doing great. Like those people are doing really good. It's that first round and I like called them in. We had a sales meeting yesterday on Monday and I let them know like you I apologize to you guys. Like if I skipped over some stuff, you'll have to forgive me for that. But this is what it is. And Wes, uh not like got onto him, but like, let them know too, like, these inspections are not where your money is. Your money is in the commission. We want you guys to get your commissions so soon so that you can recognize how lucrative this business can be. So, again, that's kind of like, I mean, I can recognize that we were like zoning in on a problem when we didn't really necessarily have to. So yes, we can correct this, things like that. But I do think that you're right as far as like we're just gonna have to just keep recruiting, just keep going.
Yeah. And you're also like, give yourself a little bit of grace because you're in your first ever round of doing this, So like this is your first time going through these training classes and you're going to have little areas where like, oh, I could do that better. Or obviously I dropped the ball on this part, or maybe I didn't emphasize this enough. So like for you to be getting those numbers out of the gate are really good. But yeah, the thing that I would say, the big takeaway there is definitely their assumption of damage. That's the
Yeah.
huge area of opportunity. Like that's the obvious part there. So that's my advice, is making sure you're emphasizing too, like, guys, 85% of the time, you're going to find damage because of where we live. Look at this hail map. If you're coming back to me and you're saying you did this many inspections, but only this many had damage, something's wrong, right? Like, you
Yeah.
need to tell them that might give them a little bit of confidence too. It could be confidence. I don't know if it's enough damage. It might be confidence about just like, well, if I say it's not, then I don't have to go through the sales presentation, and maybe I just feel nervous right now, right? So like, but remember, they don't get paid unless they go through the sales presentation. So it's like, if there's any damage, and then telling them, if you're not sure, text me, take a
Mhm.
picture in the WhatsApp group, right? Like, what, and I make a joke. I'm like, you need to put your damage goggles on. Okay. Dents equal dollar signs. For every house that has
Mhm.
damage, you could earn $2,000, right? If you walk away from a house that has damage and you only get $50, right? Like, that's on you. You know what I mean? And so you've got to be like, you're motivating them to look for damage. Damage is good. Damage equals dollars, right?
Go with him up on a roof to double check.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good thing to do.
Um,
And like I said, like spot checking with some of them, like calling on some of their appointments, especially if you know they're in a really likely damaged area, and you're like, hey, I just want to stop. We're going to stop back over with this guy because I don't know if he has the confidence of identifying damage yet. And so really help him out if you just let us like pop over and take a look at your roof. And if we don't find anything, whatever. But if we do, I want to make sure he's not missing that, right? So that would definitely be something that I would do.